I guess my biggest question was, how did you put a British twist on the series?
So we do use some of the stories from the French show, and particularly in the first episode, I transposed the story of an actress of a certain age who's sort of indirectly asked to have some work done for her part. Because I thought that was such a great story in the French show. I mean, it's so believable and so true. So the first story, the kind of problem of the episode, the kind of thing to be solved, is pretty much the same as the French show. But after that, I think our show starts to diverge more and more from the French show, and it becomes more and more a different center of gravity. So that was the sort of process. And I think, because Britain is quite a different, culturally and socially, we are very different from the French. And London is very different from Paris. And Paris is such a beautiful place to look at on camera, or to be there. London is also a wonderful place to be, but it's just different. It's more diverse, culturally, architecturally, socially, in every way. It has a different energy. So we wanted to find a way of putting that energy at the core of the show.
I really like that you made Jack Jim's son. It kind of gave a better, grounding for his character, because he is kind of, I don't know how to describe him, but how did that decision come about?
That was quite early on, because I thought in a way that it's hard. I always, when I watch stuff, if you kind of start with the funeral of someone you don't know, I always think, well, I can't really care about that person because I didn't know them. So I wanted to find a way of really making the loss of the founder of the company matter. In a way, they are, in the French show, they are a sort of dysfunctional family. So what I did was make that literally true, partly true, that to make Jim Broadbent's character Jack Davenport's father. And over here, and so there are over here also there are acting dynasties, and so it was a way of referencing that is a truth that dotted around the entertainment world, in the show business world in the UK and in London. There are families of fathers and sons and mothers and daughters and so it felt true to me.
If you were renewed for a season 2, what actor would you want to appear?
Off the top of my head, Daniel Craig would be interesting, wouldn't he? Because what's he going to do now? Where does he want to go next? Phoebe Waller-Bridge would be someone. Are you aware of her? Yes. She's a star. I could give me 10 minutes and I could come up with a name or a list of 20 more. We have lots of people that will be fun to play with.
I think that there's like a very different sense of humor between the French and the English. Did you guys have any difficulty? What do you think made it different, set it apart?
Well, I mean, indisputably, even though the English Channel is only about 25 miles wide, I mean, French cultural attitudes are profoundly different to British ones in a lot of ways. We're a strange, emotionally constipated island people. And and a lot of what we don't say is the important part, or we mean the opposite of what we say, which is not really the French way of doing things. So I think almost from the get-go, I'd be surprised if people didn't see those differences for themselves, I guess.
In the French series, your character, he has this secret daughter, and it's very interesting to me seeing how it all plays out, because I think there's this weird, maybe it's a misconception that the French are more forgiving of affairs. And so seeing this play out from an English perspective, I'm very curious to see it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think there's that thing about the sort of normalization of the concept of the mistress in French culture, which of course, whether that's being forgiving or just I don't know what it is, but it's certainly the sort of contortions that Jonathan goes through as a result of his sort of undeclared love child erupting into his life. We're embarrassed by everything in Britain. So what could be more embarrassing than having to cop to the fact that and also embarrassing for reasons of neglect more than anything else. I mean, he doesn't feel too good about the fact that, and again, it's a measure of John's brilliant writing, that there are like these little tiny things that Hiftu's character has to say to me, where like there's an episode where it's her birthday, and at one point I go, I'm sorry I forgot your birthday, and she goes, yeah, you get used to it. And it's, you know, it's like an absolute knife to the heart. And I think it was fun to kind of explore this man clambering out of the kind of mortification and also the destructive power of to his, you know, his declared family, that this, you know, that results from that, because, you know, it's he's not proud, you know, he's not proud of it. I mean, he ends up being very proud of his daughter. He's in many ways been living a lie for a very long time, so that's complicated.
And if the show is renewed for a season 2, who would your dream guest star be?
I thought Ray Fiennes would be good because he's funny.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I can't top that, so I'm not going to answer. That's a brilliant. Or Hugh Grant, actually, because similarly to Rafe, the older they've got, the funnier they've become.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty amazing twofer.